have it, another successfully completed project. Needless to say, I've been hard at work this fall, just tinkering, rebuilding, repairing, playing with our arcade machines, and here's a new one. It's no secret to anybody that's been a viewer of this channel that I was very displeased with my Arcade1Up Marvel Vs Capcom 2 purchase, and basically that displeasure led me to building this. I found an old, relatively solid Dynamo HS-5 cabinet that was completely gutted and empty already, but structurally sound, no rotting wood, no kicked in board panels or anything like that. The bones itself were solid and good, and I thought that was going to be a perfect donor cabinet and item to use in this Marvel vs. Capcom 2 arcade build. Basically, like I said, I used the HS-5 Dynamo cabinet. It was that generic cabinet that was prevalent in the 90s, specifically with fighting games, so I thought it was perfectly suited for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Would have preferred a big blue cabinet, but when something like this falls in your lap for dirt cheap, paid $100 for the cabinet, wasn't going to say no to it. Went with a matte black vinyl on these sides, and then I put the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 artwork on the side in smaller form. I didn't cover the entire cabinet. Obviously, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 didn't have its own dedicated side artwork or anything like that, so there is no right or wrong answer to it. But I wanted to do something that was very akin to the Street Fighter series, where it basically just had a low-key logo on these sides of the arcade cabinet, so that's kind of what I replicated there. Went with the generic cement control panel overlay, mainly just because there wasn't a lot of people out there making a diamond plate control panel overlay that was going to actually be wide and long enough to cover the entire control panel for the HS-5, because it is a little bit wider than the other Dynamo cabinets. Control-wise, I went with the same thing I always go, my personal preference, of course. IL Euro joysticks. I think they're the absolute best joystick on the market today, specifically for fighting games, namely. Cherry D44X micro switches, they feel the best to me. They're not gonna make you perform anything magically better than anybody else. And then I went with HAP competition convex buttons because, again, I like the feel and personal preference. That's just my absolute ideal setup of choice, especially for fighting games, but I think it's actually a pretty safe use case for almost any arcade application, barring a few specific arcade titles that have unique joystick configurations. For the display, I went with a 27-inch high refresh rate gaming monitor, 1 millisecond response time, so I don't have any of those issues I was having with Arcade1Up with input delay or anything like that. Zero delay encoders hooked up to an Android box that runs basically any arcade game I want flawlessly. Marvel vs. Capcom, 60 frames per second without issue, without stuttering. So none of the issues I was encountering on Arcade1Up's Marvel vs. Capcom 2 3/4 scale release. There's no online play on this, but there was also no online play for that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 arcade machine. I can put a PC in here and run Fightcade if I want to. I just haven't decided how long I'm going to keep this because I got some other projects on the horizon, so this may not live here permanently. I may end up having to get rid of this to make room for other projects, but we shall see. I have to have a couple conversations with the wife and really kind of look into the measurements of the garage, what we got going on currently with the gaming lineup. But display looks great. Of course, you can toggle things. You can go to the 4:3 aspect ratio if you don't like the 16:9 widescreen aspect ratio. Easy to do. You can turn bezels on, turn bezels off, scan lines on, you name it. Personal preference, you can do whatever you want. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. You can play it any way you want. If you put it in 4:3 aspect ratio with this 27-inch monitor, you get something to akin about a 21-inch display for the correct aspect ratio. But again, personal preferences, you do whatever you want. Lit Marquee, of course, free of any graining artifacts or anything like that I was experiencing again on the Arcade1Up, because this was a project born out of the disdain that I had for that purchase of that Arcade1Up product. I hate to bury that into the ground, but I could do this so much better on my own and made this actually cheaper than it was for me to buy the Arcade1Up 3/4 scale. In fact, in totality, this entire project cost me $400. That's right, $400 top to bottom, cabinet, everything you see in the background behind me, $400 total. So I know that's not something that anybody and everybody can do, but that just kind of gives you an idea of, you know, the DIY side of things is not as daunting or as expensive as one may lead you to believe. You even have customized LED coin buttons with my own logo here on the front. And I rekeyed everything with brand new key locks, and I had to use an Akuma Funko Pop keychain just because Akuma is one of my mains in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I think it just really ties the project together. Around the monitor itself, I made my own bezel. Nothing fancy, but I did add some decals, some custom decals that have all the move lists for the main characters, as well as how you perform your hyper combos and things like that for newcomers up top. I think it kind of really completes the overall look, kind of finishes it, and just gives it that nice polished finish. I did have to make my own control panel overlay out of plexi here just to protect some of the graphics, because like the kick button, the punch button, those type of little decals that are underneath, they aren't made of the same polycarbonate vinyl as the control panel, so those would have wore off instantly had I not had the protective plexiglass overlay. I absolutely hate making those just because it gets shattered pieces of plastic everywhere, but you know, with a whole bit, it's very easy to drill out your own, make your own. So I just, you know, went to the hardware store, bought my own piece for like $15, got a drill, took some time, and swept a lot of crappy plastic off my garage floor for the next 2 weeks afterwards. Cover the edges of the cabinet with some brand new baby blue T-molding. Could have went with darker blue, but I think baby blue just kind of fits the motif and the background imagery of the, you know, startup logo we see here of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So baby blue is the way I went, and I think it looks nice. In a nutshell, that is it. That is my Marvel vs. Capcom 2 arcade build. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Did I absolutely ruin this machine? Did I make it worthwhile? Like I said, $400, you can't really beat it. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the like button. I'll put all the products that I use in this video down in the video description box below in case you want to try your hand at building your own kind of project arcade cabinet. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you share this video with your friends. And as always, thanks for watching, guys. Really means a lot.